Was your pastor's election sermon more confusing than helpful? So was mine. Hello, good people. It is Todd Shannon, data scientist, social commentator, getter of buckets. And today, we're going to talk about election sermons. It is election season, as you all well know. And for many churches, pastors have taken on the task of doing an election sermon or addressing politics directly from the pulpit, as is the tradition of many churches across this great nation. Now, this is not something that everyone does, and so if you don't know what I'm talking about, then this video is not for you. But if your pastor did try to address politics in some tangible way, then you're in the right place. Election sermons, although they're not common, they are important, and I do wish that people would do more of them. But for some people, when they hear their pastor talking about politics, they end up at the end of the message being more confused than anything else. And I want to explain maybe why that is and where you can maybe find some good resources. I'm actually going to link in this video a couple of election sermons that I actually think are quite helpful and are likely missing the sort of things that you maybe wished your pastor had said or done. But let's talk about what an election sermon is supposed to be. First of all, there's no requirement for your pastor to do this, but I think it is wise if they tried. So if your pastor tried to address this from the pulpit, then I at least have to give them an E for effort in that regard. So that's better than a lot of people, right? But here's the thing. The whole value of a sermon of that sort is to maybe help you to cut through the noise, cut through the fog. Many people are confused about what to prioritize and how to go about making a sound and biblical and godly decision about who's going to be the people making the rules for the next 4 years. Maybe that's at the federal level and on the local level, and maybe even some laws in your local area and municipalities or states that are going to have real impact on your lives. But this is what you'll likely, if you were left confused about your pastor's sermon, this is what likely they probably did. Some permutation of this. They got up and they said, our kingdom is not of this world, and we just need to remember that, we need to know that Jesus is our true king, and our allegiance and our citizenship is in heaven, and that's what we need to focus on. And I tell you what, there's both sides are so bad, the right, they're bad, and the left, they're bad, and both sides do bad things, and I hate politics because they really divide us, and, but I trust Jesus. So y'all go out and vote. What? What? It's complete nonsense. One of the things that I have learned from YouTube, one of the things that is really important, I learned this from MKBHD. Shout out to MKBHD. MKBHD, Marquez Brownlee, if you're familiar with him, one of the biggest YouTubers, definitely, if not the biggest YouTuber in the tech space, but definitely one of the biggest players in general on YouTube. And he said something that was really, really important when he was basically trying to give, like some point, people ask him, well, how did you become so successful? And one of the things he said was, he says, the main reason why my channel is successful, or if you want to duplicate something like what I did, and I'm paraphrasing, and it's not exactly what it is, but he said, the whole point of what I do is to help people make a purchase decision. So what he is trying to do is trying to cut through all the noise, get rid of the myths, just, misinformation, and help people understand, hey, if you're looking for a specific thing, this is the thing that can help you with that. And if you're looking for something else, then that's the thing that can help you with that. And then he's also putting that in the context of the value. Say, for example, he might have two options that are basically equal, but one is significantly more expensive. You say, well, should you pay that extra for, marginal, if very little upside or difference between these two products? Well, no. So his whole shtick or his whole reason for his success is because he helps people do that. He helps people understand things that they otherwise wouldn't understand, and helps people make decisions that they can feel like they're getting the best value based on what they need. Now, if MKBHD just got up on his channel and said things like, hey, this phone sucks and this phone also sucks, and, and they're both really expensive, so I don't know what to tell you. I don't think he'd have the 20 million subscribers or however many he has or whatever the situation is. That doesn't help anyone. And so this is what a lot of pastors did, getting up. And I don't know why pastors do this. I don't know why pastors get up and say, politics is bad, but you should go vote. I hate how divided we are, but you should go vote. I had a chance to go in person and sit through an election sermon that was chef's kiss, was absolutely almost, I hesitate to say it was flawless, but it was absolutely fantastic because they didn't focus on any of the nonsense. They got right to helping people understand what they believe from a biblical, and they argued from a biblical perspective, what they believe are the things you should prioritize. And I want to underscore that term, prioritize, because sitting there complaining that both sides are bad is not meaningful. Even if you can see that both sides are equally bad, they're not bad in the same way. Okay, so if they're not bad in the same way, then we need to focus on, well, what is it that we need, and what's in that case is more important. In other words, they're helping you to economize on your values or your decision making. What do we mean by that in the political sense? Well, what we mean is that, hey, when people have unlimited resources, they don't have to make concessions. They don't have to make compromises. They can just say, I want all the things, and it doesn't matter because I can afford it. I can pay for all the things. The equivalent to that in this case would be like if we could elect Jesus as president. Okay, listen, we cannot elect Jesus as president. He's not on the ballot. He's not interested in the job. He's got a better one already. And so there's that. So the question is, if we can't have all the things, then which things should we prioritize, right? And so economizing means simply basically sifting through and sorting what is the most valuable given your resources. That's all an economy is. That's all economizing is. It's basically allocating scarce resources such that you prioritize the things that have the most value. And I have said, and I will continue to say, and I'll also put a link in the description to this video that I've done, or maybe I'll put it in one of the boxes here. I'll try to do that. Sometimes it's tricky to do that. But anything that breaks down the family, anything that erodes the family is something that is going to impact us the most. And I have made the case biblically why the family is the foundation of society and the foundation of civilization is because basically the family is the atomic unit or the indivisible unit of a social order. The social order is established by the order that exists in the family. Vivek Ramaswamy said something that's actually quite profound. He used to say it when he was on the campaign trail, and he would say it over and over. He said, the family is the greatest form of governance known to man. The family is the greatest form of governance known to man. I don't know where he got that quote from. And it's interesting because Vivek Ramaswamy is not a Christian, but the insight and the wisdom displayed in that quote can hardly be quantified. And I don't know where he got that from, but as I started to study the Bible, I began to realize this is actually true. Because a government is really just about how we do public life together. What are the rules? It sets the order and the moral standards. Well, that's what a family does at its most fundamental unit, and the most fundamental level, I should say. In a family, you have order, you have law, you have love, and when the family is functioning correctly, then we can basically produce on a grander scale what we're already doing at the family level. And if the family is in shambles, then so will our society be. And it doesn't matter what else is happening. There's no version of reality where the quote economy is more important than the state of the family. As a matter of fact, the economy will go down when the family is in shambles. The economy cannot function the way it should when the family is not functioning the way it should. So on and so forth. You can throw in any issue. And this is why issues like life in the womb, you can't have a family when you're killing your offspring. Issues like marriage, and sexuality. These are the things people want to pretend like these are secondary issues, and they're not secondary issues. They are primary issues. So this is why I find it so troubling that many pastors do not seem to understand this. And I'm not going to sit there and hold them accountable for being able to explain it at this deep philosophical level and tying it back to the family specifically. But I do think it's pretty important and pretty obvious that if your pastor's doing his job, then what he is telling you is that we can't vote for people whose policies will destroy the family. And you know what those policies are: sexual immorality, life in the womb. Everything else is secondary to that. Every permutation. So the reason why many pastors can't and won't do this is because either they don't have that understanding, which is troubling, right? Or what many pastors do, and they end up saying, well, all of these issues and values are equally as important, and you just have to pick the ones that are most important to you. Well, when you pick the ones that are, quote, most important to you, that's not helpful, because is this supposed to be about me? There's some people who value their business more important. Should I value that over, I don't know, kids being trafficked? Right? Is that a godly way to go about things? I think we know intuitively that there's something not right about that. And I will say to this, if you were really dissatisfied with what your pastor got up and said, and you felt like they were just giving you their opinions, they didn't exegete the text, they didn't enumerate God's heart in a way that gives you an idea of which moral values we should prioritize, then maybe you need to really think about, is your pastor doing that because they are secretly woke? Because that's a real possibility. Do they simply not understand? Or I think an even more troubling trend, which is that they're just afraid to be offensive. They're afraid to say things that will cause people to be upset. Because all of these things are problematic. If you have a pastor that's afraid to say difficult things, then you're probably in a church where the leadership is not very strong. And that's a real problem, something you really need to pray about if you can't help. I'm not saying you need to leave your church, but it's something that you should bring up. You should try to have a conversation about. So I am going to be doing a couple of videos here that if your pastor gave, once again, a lame sermon on for this election sermon, I'm going to provide you some resources. And this week, I'm going to release a video, which is, I think I'll call it the election sermon you wished your pastor had given, right? Because even though there's a couple of really good election sermons that I can recommend, I think there's one in particular that I want to show, that I want to do, that I think is very relevant, that not a lot of people are touching on. And so stay tuned to the channel this week. If you like this content, please like, share, and subscribe, and let me know. Was your pastor's election sermon, was it lame? Did you find it refreshing, or was it good? I like to hear about that as well. And let me know. Did your pastor talk about this stuff at all? Maybe you go to a church where this is just not something that's very common, but I'd like to know what your thoughts are. And there again, stay tuned to the channel. And until next time, my friends, God bless you.